morning, good evening, good night. Welcome to WHAM. That's how you're going to say it. You're going to say it like that. WHAM. Get as much into it as you physically can. I am Adam, and I am here to tell you all about a comic you should all be reading. But I am not alone, but with me in this journey, this descent into publication madness, is a very old and dear friend who's probably wondering why I've dragged him in. It's Mr. Andrew Turnbull.
Oh, thanks for dragging me on board this. I say dragging on, it's more a case of this should have happened several years ago. Behind the curtain, Adam and I talked about this way back in the Beforetimes of 2019. Now,
We did.
And we both said, it's a very good idea, love to talk about it, let's get something arranged. Then the world went Tango Ultra, something fierce. Third sandwiches for all.
Yeah, a long time ago. What we want to do is we want to talk about Warhammer Monthly, a comic that started in 1998. Our plan, as it stands at the moment, is we are going to do issue by issue. Talk a little bit about the issues themselves, talk a little bit about the people who worked on them, talk about things that were happening around it, talk about our own journey through the hobby at that time. Because Warhammer Monthly is a really weird experience. It's a strange little publication. Did you start at the very beginning there, Andrew?
No, I was issue 2 actually, bizarrely, because context at the time, I was at university at the time that this was going on, and I did actually run a Warhammer 40k Magic the Gathering club, which is still going now. I have no involvement in it. I tapped out around 2000 as I kind of drifted at the hobby for about 20 years. Aside from dabbling in the fiction, which we'll come to as we talk through, but I wasn't as regularly reading White Dwarf. We're still playing the game, still buying the stuff for the club, and we're still involved in that, but wasn't as up to date on that. Again, I was at university, buying a ton of comics anyway, but I just happened to see issue 2 and Colin McNeil cover. I was like, ooh. In fact, no, it wasn't Colin McNeil cover, but Colin McNeil was in it, because I flipped through and said, oh, Colin McNeil, I'll have this. And picked up, and then sort of started from there. But because I'd read, what was the A5 magazine that they tried to do?
Inferno.
Inferno, because that was kind of their first faltering steps, and it didn't quite land.
Inferno was a weird one. The idea of having a monthly magazine that is just short form fiction anthology isn't a bad one. In 1936, there was plenty of them.
Yeah, again, it was one of these things that if you had a Games Workshop store near you, you were fine. You could go in and pick it up. I don't recall, did I ever see it in John Menzies / W.H. Smith? I don't think so. What struck me for Inferno was we had a comic story in it, which was clearly an ongoing one. It was 2 pages.
Yes.
2 pages a month is a big ask. The UK comic landscape in 1998, in terms of it, monthlies are never done as well in the UK traditionally.
No.
So at that point, Panini were doing the reprints of the Marvel US stuff, which was like three US issues worth every 4 weeks for a couple of quid.
The essentials.
Full color, cardstock cover. This is a 36-page, give or take, monthly comic that's black and white. Now, I love it. Cards on the table. I think a lot of comics with color in them don't need them, and I don't think they add to it. And it's not always necessary. So I love a good black and white comic. But
do you think that's coming from 2000 AD?
No, because 2008 was, by that point, was a mix. 2008 normally went full color early 90s, and then kind of would do black and white when the story suggested it. So it's more just a case of, I want to tell the story in black and white, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Part of it is, traditionally, black and white, it's cheaper to print. So part of me wonders, was this a Games Workshop decision? And well, obviously it was published by that, but was this a management going, here is your production budget? Because I can imagine there would again, responsible publisher, part of the bigger GW entity, they would have went, here's your budget.
Yeah.
Here's what you've got to work with. So I imagine they probably, because you're then looking at everything costs it. So you'll get some of the art, like Colin McNeil, for example, his painted artwork in 2000 AD from things like Copper, Song of the Surfer, the last bits of The Final Solution, Judge Dredd America. Gorgeous. And you see it when he does the covers for Warhammer. It's like, so you're telling me that when you get Colin McNeil to do, if you could have got him to do fully painted, take your hand off for it.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
But like I say, it's not to say that that's a bad decision, but it's more just in terms of looking at it from a point of view of either parents or kids in general. It's just like black and white can be a harder sell.
It can. And I think a big part of that is at this time, Games Workshop were expanding rapidly. So, from just a purely publication point of view, Black Library's now started up. So you've got the Gaunt Ghosts and Felix and Gotrek are now getting reprints. You've got White Dwarf coming out each month. You've got Citadel Journal coming out every month. Then they add Inferno. Then they add Warhammer Monthly. I can imagine that each thing that got added would bring the budget down of the overall publication arm maybe not quite a lot, but a fair bit.
Yeah.
So anything that saves costs is probably a good thing. And you've got to remember as well, 1998, when Warhammer Monthly drops, the UK comic market was shrinking.
Well, the UK comic market had been on its knees since Marvel UK went Tango Ultra and Panini effectively took over. And it was effectively like a soft rebranding as Panini bought everything out. And then it was Marvel UK for a bit under the Panini name because the only holdover, Fabino's still standing, Commando is still standing. The only other holdover, strictly speaking, is Doctor Who Monthly, or Doctor Who Magazine, which was from Doctor Who Weekly to Doctor Who Monthly to Doctor Who Magazine.
Mm-hmm.
There's not really anything left standing.
No.
That's it. It's decimated.
By 98, Fleetway is all but gone. Yeah.
Well, that's, again, hence why when Rebellion bought out 2000 AD in the magazine in late 99, early 2000s to basically save it.
Yeah.
Had Rebellion not taken it, would 2000 AD have limped on? Yes. Would it still be here in 2024? Probably not.
I can imagine that 2000 AD would have gone full reprint by 2002 and then long left for the world after that.
So it's a very small competitive market space. But on the other hand, it's also the fact that what's its biggest weakness is also its biggest strength, is it doesn't look like anything else that's out there.
No.
Which is you can argue, does it help it differentiate? Yes. Does it make it more attractive to someone to buy? That's the rub.
Yeah.
And again, what it does is it goes wisely into what is the tradition of the UK published public comic scene. Tends to, from the year dot, anthologies. 2000 AD's an anthology, the Beano, the Dandy, they were all multiple strips rather than, because you could have just as easily went Warhammer Monthly, issue 1, we're going to do a story about orcs and 40k. Next month it's going to be Wood Elves against whatever in Warhammer Fantasy. They could have chopped about that way, but they stuck with here's a grab bag of everything, because there is no issue of any anthology that you're going to enjoy every story of, or it'll be very rare if you do.
Yeah.
There will always be ones that you go, it's not for me. So it does have the thing of, is there going to be something for everyone in it?
Mm-hmm.
And the Games Workshop, so from the Warhammer, the Warhammer 40k universes have a rich amount of content. A lot of it they borrowed from elsewhere. Michael Moorcock says hello. But
Frank Herbert screams from beyond the grave.
But the lore is it is part of what makes Games Workshop enjoyable, and it's part of what brings people into the hobby. And as someone who came back into it during lockdown, the lore that's part of it that does it. It's not just buying the miniatures, paint them up, or what have you. The lore is part of the package, so it's got a rich backstory to play with and to tell new stories. And one of the other things is they kind of stay away from most of the named characters. It's like you're not getting the ongoing adventures of Abaddon against the Empire.
See, I'd only want that, but if it was drawn like a Beano comic.
But so they kind of wisely go, no, we've got this rich universe to play with. Like you get named characters in, like for example in the Blood Angel stuff, the first issue you get Spit and You'll Miss It from Mephiston and Commander Dante. So it's setting it, like, it's still with these, it's still alongside these guys, but guess what? We're telling you other stuff.
Yeah.
Again, it's part of the hobby 40k. Again, it's the reason why there are two legions missing from the 20. It's not because of a narrative thing. It's to let you make up your own. Yeah.
That's it. I remember having this conversation years ago in my old wargaming club in the late 90s. I remember there was a young lad. I can remember his nickname, but I cannot remember his... Adrian, he was called. That was it. Hi, Adrian, if you're listening to this. Sedge, hiya. He was annoyed that there wasn't like a Gazgul Thraka story, or there wasn't a... not Rabudi Gilman, Calgar. Just wait 25 years and you'll get your Calgar comic. But I remember having the conversation of, but this is what Warhammer is to me. This is these new characters, these creating your own stories, creating your own narratives, and going forward and exploring them.
Yeah, exactly. It's the things like, yeah, you might want to use full disclosure. I'm a basic edgelord. I love Dark Angels, always have. They are my boys. So it's like, yeah, I'll use the Azrael figure, but it's not Azrael. Why would it be? Because I can have battles and I can give the guy a backstory. Does he survive? Is he injured? Can I do stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
And also, Bill King's Deathwing is the finest story that Games Workshop's ever produced.
it's that. I think it's kind of a like I stumbled into the hobby bit by bit. Like Space Hulk, I got. What I mean,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, so Deathwing, yeah, they're cool. I wish I could do better at the game back in the day. I died a lot more than I didn't, as most of us did, to be fair.
No, that's the Space Hulk way.
Got that for the Amiga, got the board game, and then kind of was aware of the lore and all that sort of stuff. And then just as I was finishing high school in the dim and distant 1995, a couple of friends got me into Blood Bowl of all things, and that's kind of where we started our club, was because it's a nice quick game you can play.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, here's the 40k box set. And I was like, all right, fine, fair enough. How much is that? 40 quid. In your part time job at that point, it's like that's a massive chunk of my wages. And all of a sudden, you've got this plastic box and you're not going out drinking for a couple of weeks because you've spent it all on the toys. And then you start reading the bits in the books and say, oh, I'm in. And then countless thousands of pounds get spent over the years.
But you also got the Cardboard Dreadnought, which was the single finest thing you could ever find in a big box.
The power of imagination, kids.
Absolutely. And the fact that they had to copyright and design a stand for the Cardboard Dreadnought makes me so happy.
Yeah. So as we go back to the point, was that they kind of wisely go, we're going to set it in and around the stuff and we'll reference some characters. You might see the odd one here or there, but you know what? We've got a blank canvas. Let's go and do something with it. And partial was probably from practicality is that you'd have to be waiting on like Andy Chambers and Rick and Jervis to say, this is what we're doing on the next version of the game. No, you can't do that story. So it's as much practicality, but it's like trying to tie it in. You can look at this, it's kind of almost like a licensed comic. Go back to Transformers, it's like when Titan started doing the Transformers comic around the time of the Michael Bay films. They bore no relation to what was going on between the first and the second film because they didn't know, they wouldn't be told. So it's like, find a little corner, tell your own story.
Yes.
Use what we know we can play with. That's kind of what they do here. And the whole point is, it was successful enough that certain characters spin out and got their own miniatures anyway.
Yeah.
So it fed back in eventually, and that things became popular enough that they wanted their own miniatures.
As we go along, we'll find things like Malice Darkblade, a character that he originates as being, well, we want a Dark Elf character like that one from D&D, but we want him to be Warhammer.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what he is. Into a very interesting character under his own right. And he gets a lot of steam right the way into the 2000s. Even turns up in the end times, for crying out loud. He's a big part of that story for the Dark Elves.
Yeah, so it has a legacy and it did its job. And as you say, it got 80 odd issues all in, which is pretty damn good.
I haven't been able to find it yet, but there is another issue that got published a little bit after the fact. And it's one where everything gets mixed around. So you have Malice Darkblade as a Dark Eldar. It's a very weird issue, and I've never seen it. So it's one of those things where a part of me is wondering if this is a joke that someone set up years ago, but I've not been able to find a copy of it yet.
It sounds like, it does sound, because comics will always do it. Here's your Elseworlds, your What If type thing.
Yeah.
Here's a special one-off where so-and-so, 2000 AD have done it a couple of times. Here's Judge Dredd as a medieval questing knight.
Here's Judge Dredd with Stallone Dredd and Carl Urban Dredd, which is one of the greatest issues or anything I've read in years.
Yes, that too as well. So you've got that. So it's not a thing, but Warhammer Monthly, as we said, it kind of very much an outlier in that, but it did enough to survive a reasonable length of time in the field of comics, especially given it's monthly. So you've got that.
Something you said before kind of springs to mind here, and it's the fact that it's a smaller American-sized format.
Yeah.
Do you think that was done to stand out on the shelf, or do you think it's because it was going to be published throughout the world?
I think it was to publish throughout the world more than anything else, because it means that you don't have to resize. Because my age group is Marvel. A lot of US material wasn't readily available in the UK when I was growing up. It was sporadic, depending on what
Yeah.
news agents where you lived. So Marvel UK was the thing.
Yes. Yeah.
But so there's very distinct ways of sizing up comics in terms of for print. They would size up the US material ever so slightly to fit the page dimensions that Marvel UK would do for their comics. So, but again, it's all working fast. So why would you do it? And it's also because it's all done digitally now in terms of pre-pressing and assembling. So I imagine it's a case of if we've got the files here, it just means that Games Workshop in the US can go and get them printed in the US potentially and save us some money when we're distributing them in the US market. So no, it's just kind of a one size fits all. Also, if you're looking to get it sold in specialist comic shops, like your Forbidden Planets and you're like, because the thing they don't tell you is comic shops hate anything that's not the size of everything else because it makes it an absolute pain to display. So it's very nice, and from a retail point of view, for anyone who has worked in retail, I would assume that almost everyone has had an unfortunate job at some point, stacking shelves and putting stuff away. Things that don't fit the way everything else should do are an absolute bane to your daily existence.
Yes. I've done multiple retail shops, and I agree wholeheartedly.
So
them and customers.
Yes, that too. Yeah, so there's an element of standardization does help.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the way that this all kind of came together, it's one of those things I'm doing a lot of research into to try and work out who made the decision, where did it come from, and all that type of thing. And I've not got any answers just yet. But it does seem to be that there was this push into America, and they thought that having a comic was going to be one of the things that pushed 40k into America a lot easier by having a comic on the shelves that had the Warhammer logo on it. They would be able to sell the miniatures easier in the States.
Again, it's tying into sort of if you're trying to hawk a toy line or whatever media traditional for the last sort of for as long as we've been kicking about is you've always had some sort of ancillary media to go along with it. It also means that there's a presence always. To go back to Transformers, because it's a big part of my life, is I didn't get the toys all the time because my family weren't loaded, so the toys were a occasional. It's a birthday, it's a Christmas, it's a special treat type thing. Whereas they had a weekly comic, which that's budget friendly, so that's the constant thing. So, but it also keeps the awareness of, so when it gets time to Christmas, you're able to nag your parents and go, I want this, I want that. Oh, Ultra Magnus is really cool. Said nobody. I lie, it was really good. I loved that toy, but I digress. But
Great
it's the kind
toy.
of thing. Yeah, but it's about having a presence outside. And again, Games Workshop, where do you sell your toys? Either in your stores or in specialist retailers. So it's a closed shop because you're only going to those things if you're interested in comics or. And I realise specialist retailer always sounds a bit seedy, doesn't it? Like
it does.
It does. But
welcome to the specialist retailer.
Yeah, it's like it does very much sound like code for adult bookstore. but but these are closed shops as well. So you're going there because you're interested in the thing already. That's all well and good selling to your existing fan base, but existing fan bases by their nature will shrink.
Yes.
Because people will drift in and out of the hobby, or they'll be priced out. They'll suddenly have kids, so all of a sudden spending £500 on an army is not practical because you have to spend that on a child and more. Yes. So these things happen. So exactly. So these things move on. So you then have to go, right, where are you getting your next generation of fans in? So it's get that out there. So if you've got a comic that's, again, you can get it outside in a comic shop where some places will stock 40k, some won't in the UK, depending, but couldn't speak for America, but it's like, oh, what's this? Oh, they do miniatures. Here's the advert in the back for White Dwarf or for the Citadel catalogue. All right, I can get these. Oh, they do mail order, even better.
Yeah,
mail order before online shopping. We're showing the age here, kids. But
I would say very happily that the world would be a better place if there was still mail order in the back of a White Dwarf.
It wouldn't, because you'd still have people trying to pay through checks and postal orders.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
So some progress is good, but these are the things, and it holds true for the UK as well. It's like if you might not have a model shop near you, you might not have a Games Workshop as they were at the time. So if I've got that comic, I then know, they've got a website, they do mail order, I can get it. These look cool. So it's what they're doing with the partworks just now, effectively, which although I'd argue is probably much more successful than Warhammer Monthly ever would be, because you're getting the miniatures along with it. But
yes, yeah,
this is getting into the hands of people who wouldn't, in their wildest dreams to start with, have dreamed of going into a Warhammer store.
I think a big part of that, though, is that the hobby now is in a very different place where the hobby was in the late 90s. Whilst there was a massive expansion take place from like 95 to 2000, the explosion since 2020 has been unforeseeable. It's been huge, which is how you get things like Hatchet and stuff now.
Yeah, because it's worth their money going after getting the license from GW, and it's worth it. But as I say, that's not to say Warhammer wasn't a success. It lasted 7 years, give or take. Which, in the world of comics, that's an unqualified success.
Well, especially in the UK comics, an anthology UK comic out every month for 7 years, it's impressive.
Yes. So it did well. It did better than, because I think those of us that when we were picking up at the time, I don't think any of us thought it was going to last.
No. No way at all.
No, you're coming out with the doom and gloom of the UK comic industry as a whole. I say not the UK comic industry, because the small press scene is thriving and is amazing, but the mainstream walk into a newsagent, walk into John Menzies / W. Smith market, or your supermarket with your cover mounted crap toy stuff. I could go on a rant here, I won't. But
oh no, please do. I've got a 5-year-old.
No,
I've had to experience this fucking.
It's not even the cover mounts that annoy me, because I like crap. You know me, Adam.
Yes.
The amount of shit I have bought over the years is impressive. It's the low effort content inside, which is basically, here's the press kit from this property. We're just going to put the images around. There's a word search. Here's a crudely done screen cap with really bad lettering. But no. I grew up at Target 2006. I got fully painted 11 pages a week of my toy robots smashing 7 bells and fighting each other.
Absolutely.
I want that.
Yeah.
It's like, don't give me this pish. And kids love comics. Kids will always love comics. And it's a gateway reading for a lot of people. But guess what? If you're not making them worth their while, it's why things like The Phoenix is amazing.
Agreed.
If you haven't read it, Bunny versus Monkey and Wish Could Be Smart, if you do not, you need to get those. They are amazing. They are life-changing.
Yeah. I totally agree with you on The Phoenix. Next year, we're going to be getting Joseph a subscription to it.
Because he'll be the right age to connect.
Yeah, he's hitting that point now where he's interested in reading stuff himself, so we're going to be getting him that. And we've been going through Sonic the Comic on my tablet, so that's been quite enjoyable. But although I'm very careful where we end up, because that goes places.
Yes. Responsible parenting. That's what we want to hear. But
a couple of years, I'll start him on the UK Transformers stuff.
Yeah. But as I say, so Warhammer was a success. It was difficult to get hold of, though.
Yeah.
If you didn't, after a while, if you didn't have a subscription, and if you're just chancing your arm by going into your newsagent, you needed to be there on the right day, because they would generally only get a couple of copies in, sometimes only the one. So there are many, many, many towns where there are passive-aggressive duels between people who have never met and never knew each other all over a comic. And they would just silently know that the other one had got in there first and gotten it, and call them all the names under the sun while leaving disgruntled.
Well, it's funny, actually, because I missed out on issue 6 because I was going into my local newsagent, one Richard James's in Workington, going in there and picking it up. And one month wasn't in. He didn't have it in, because obviously I was the only person buying it. So I had to get a subscription from that point on, and I never owned issue 6 until much, much later. Had to buy it on eBay in the early days of eBay.
Which is a good thing, because going to buy them now on eBay is a costly affair.
I wish I still had my original copies, because
they have held their value quite well for, given their relatively low age in terms of back issues. But yeah,
I mean, when we started picking it back up again and talking about this, I started looking on eBay to see if it was worth getting hold of the original copies again, and I just went, It's either that or food and heat, I think.
Yeah, it's like I have enough expensive hobbies. I do not need a third.
No, thank you. I've got. I spend enough of my time scanning in old white dwarfs. I do not
Yeah,
need to start buying 2 copies of Warhammer Monthly and Inferno each month.
yeah.
So, the issue itself. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about the issue 0 preview that came with White Dwarf.
What you get is a one-off tale in the issue to lead off. Then you get a whole host of previews for what the upcoming material in issue 1 is, and then a small little slightly scary story at the end just to wind it up. Basically, it's
Yeah,
a sample, like just to give people a flavour of what's actually going to be in, not necessarily the next issue, because it's about sort of the upcoming first couple of issues. So
it is just a complete flavor text. It's there to wet the whistle. For first promotional issue, for there were two promotional issues. One is Deathwing, the tale of two heads talking, which, if anyone knows me, you know how much I absolutely adore William King and his Deathwing story. But not just his Deathwing story, Felix and Gottschalk's great. And I'm a firm believer that his 2-page tale of the Horus Heresy is probably better than the entirety of the, 70 books that the Horus Heresy is on now, or whatever it is.
well, it's finished. Remember, we did get the end in the Death Part 3.
It's not finished. There's more coming.
No, there'll be the aftermath stuff, but to be fair,
Yeah.
he didn't really do it. So the books do cover the Bill King stuff, but I agree. Sometimes brevity is a thing. The Horus Heresy is a mixed bag, shall we say?
Yeah, when it's good, it's absolutely worth reading, and it's stuff that's people could read as its own internal book. When it's bad, though, it's
Mechanicum.
Mechanicus. Yeah, and it's not a book. Mechanicum is not a book. I'm telling you right now. There are words definitely printed onto some dead tree, but my God, it's
Yeah.
unreadable.
So the interesting thing about to do the Deathwing is the story of two heads talking was the leaning at the Dark Angels having sort of Native American imagery and iconography and going up against the Gene Stealers. So this was backstory to Space Hulk, which
Yes.
the original version was Dark Angels against Gene Stealers. Bill King wrote this story at the time. So this is an adaptation of it, and it's fully painted and it's glorious.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an incongruity because the lore had already shifted by this point to put the Dark Angels into basically the vinegar-faced, horrific, secret concealing. They're basically like the Orange Lodge in space. It's the best way I can describe them. Just they hate everything other than themselves. They're just like horrifically close-minded, just
Mm-hmm.
intolerant. It is just. I make a standard joke with some of my friends about it. It's like just honestly just horrific prod marines. It's just that. So to this point, you're into the whole someone turned to chaos, the fallen, all that guff, which I do enjoy. To be fair, as I say, I do love Dark Angels, so don't get me wrong. But they're adapting the most iconic bit of literature for them, which has already been effectively retconned and said, "Oh, this is just a mythic tale that we tell people to try and slowly introduce them to the secrets of the inner circle and to the great mysteries at the heart of the the lies upon lies, because there's no good guys in Warhammer 40,000. Just to be clear, they're all wrong."
They're all buttons.
But it's a glorious, fully painted story.
Yeah, I mean, the David Pugh is just an absolute glorious adaptation. That he gets everything just right, as far as I'm concerned.
What I also love is
Hmm.
the designs for the Dark Angels. It doesn't do the current 40k
No,
of the time Terminators. He
no.
uses the Space Hulk models more. Aside from the Stormbolters, they look more closer, but it hews a lot closer to the original designs, or not so much the original designs, but the designs of the time of Space Hulk, which I quite like because they're
See, I've got a
bulky and
theory.
spontaneous.
I've got a theory here. I don't think this was made to go out as a promotional issue of Warhammer Monthly. I think this was made to be a promotional issue or some tie-in or something like that to go with Deathwing, the Space Hulk expansion.
Yep, there's every chance it could have been something that's been. I say I don't know enough of the origins of how long has it been sitting in inventory, because
Oh,
publishers do have a thing occasionally of just, we've commissioned this work.
yeah. I mean, I've got no evidence for this at all. You know, it's just one of those things because,
You don't need
as you say,
evidence. Adam, it's the internet. In the year of our Lord 2024. Who needs facts? I've
I think
stated something, therefore it is.
I think you'll find I will go hell for leather to find evidence for anything just to piss people off.
Yeah. But no, this could have been, or it could have been that the project had been in the making for quite some time in terms of, because there are a litany of comics and comics related projects which take ages because it's not the artist's main job, or it's not a big paying gig. So it's a kind of, I'm doing this as a favourite use, so it will get done as and when suits me. Any number of reasons. So
the main reason I'm thinking that is there's a page where the Gene Stealers are jumping out at him, and they've got the wider heads of the Gene Stealers from that time. They don't have the slimmed down heads that the Gene Stealers had from like Codex Tyranids onwards. And between that and the Librarian Terminator suit, it makes me think this was not created in 1998, 1997. This was created a long time beforehand.
1991, 1992 type thing, potentially.
Yeah. I would say 92, 93, but yeah, absolutely. And I've looked into it a couple of times, but there's no like evidence of anything of anybody talking about it. Yeah, I've had more luck trying to find people who worked on the game Havoc by Bluebird than I have trying to find any information on this. And if anybody wants to know how hard that's been, 3 years. 3 years, and I found one person who's worked on it. And they don't want to talk about it.
Probably don't. The thing is, they probably don't remember.
Probably not. But I'm obsessed with trying to find people who worked on it because it fascinates me. It's, as a topic, Bluebird's Havoc game fascinates the living hell out of me. It's incredible.
Then another one that had a bit of a comic time, because 2000 AD did pack in, did giveaway comics alongside it for a while.
They did, yeah, and I've got those comics all archived up on the Fluff and Hammer site because they're really interesting. It's really cool seeing that the game and the comic working in tandem, trying desperately to dethrone Games Workshop. Because let's face it, that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's like, Games Workshop being money. It's always the way, and quality generally outlasts. So
Yeah, no, much like the old Machine Robo UK comics, they've been so much better than the GoBots actually were.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of
as well.
There's a couple of cool things in here that I quite like. I don't remember the two little the Thargs, so to speak, of Warhammer Monthly getting named this early on.
No, it's one of the things that it's very much a tradition in UK comics, and has been for long, that they would have a fictional character, either part of the universe or in the case of Tharg, not really, but he's the one that kind of is your editorial. He'll give you tell you what's coming up. And Games Workshop do this with a sort of there's a Space Marine and some Chaosy minion of some description.
Yeah, it seems a bit unfair, doesn't it? You've got a Space Marine and a shit farmer.
It's also, even at the start, it's one of these things that's like, no, that actually annoyed me right from the get-go. It's the first misstep. It's like, no, pick one character and have them as your guy. This kind of pull back and forth stuff, because it really never added anything. Tharg was always quite good in 2000 AD, and then they decided to get rid of him because the editor thought he was a throwback, and then realised, no, I've actually made a horrible mistake, and they brought him back eventually.
Yes, yeah.
But it's a curious anachronism that UK comics have, and still continue to do, in terms of with Tharg being there in 2000 AD, despite the fact we know it's Matt Smith and he has been Tharg for 20 years now. So, but it's curious to see grown-up comic professionals talk about submitting stories to Tharg, and none of us bat an eyelid. You're like, yeah, fine. If Tharg approves, it's all right. It's an odd conceit.
There's an interview out there somewhere of Nigel Kitchen talking about how Megatroid would turn down his scripts or approve his scripts, and it's I read it, didn't think anything of it. About 3 days later, I just went, "Hang on, just hold on."
It's an odd thing, but
Mm-hmm.
it's accepted in UK comics, and I hope it continues. But I just never like the arguing back and forth. Now I know there's certain UK comics have had that kind of gimmick in it, but
Yeah.
it's just that this isn't add anything to it, and I get it's also in White Dwarf, so it's pitching it to an existing audience, so you could probably get away with it, but out of 86 them very quickly.
Yeah. I think the problem is that obviously what they're trying to do here is they want two characters. Well, they want to hit two markets. They want to hit 40k and the Warhammer Fantasy audience, but they also want to do it in a way that has a order and good, order and chaos thing.
Yeah.
So it's a problem because you can't pick a character that has all of that. You can't pick a character that goes through both 40k and AOS who is both chaotic and of order. The smart thing to have done would have been to have like a servo skull, something like that, or an inquisitor that's just like looking through the warp at the different worlds of the universe and stuff like that. Something like that would have worked better.
There's any number of fictional conceits that they could have borrowed to do it. Here's an old slan looking through the void or whatever. Lean into your history and some of the stuff that you don't actually touch on or didn't at that point.
I think what really annoys me about this, and I seem to remember this at the time actually, the pictures are in the wrong place for this opening introduction. Because it looks like the Space Marine is called Gutspew and the Chaos Warrior is called Baneblade. Because of the way that the pictures are next to the paragraphs. They're the wrong way round. And that sets you off. That sets me off in a really irritating way.
Again, it's like, nah, not interested. Move on. And like I say, you get your sidebar telling you what's in the issue, and then just a little bit about what's coming up in Warhammer Monthly. Your indicia at the side, your GW product code.
Right. And just a little introduction to the game from Andy Jones. To the comic by Andy Jones. I mean, that man did some serious heavy lifting there, really, didn't he? He kind of was the editor and he was a script editor for this. Which, I know it's only one strip, but I can imagine that was a very busy month for him.
Yeah.
So, moving on then. So that's what came in White Dwarf. Now, in Inferno, you got another one in issue 0 that came free, which was the special preview issue. This one has The Bridge, which is one single short story, which we'll get into in a moment, some sneak previews, and another short story based in Warhammer Fantasy, which I have got many thoughts on. We have our little Chaos Dude and Space Marine at the very beginning, Baneblade and Gutspew just in the right places this time, having a good old cajoling it of each other. It's just... like you were saying, it just doesn't...
It doesn't bring
work.
anything. It doesn't bring anything to the comic on any level, and that's the thing. Is one of the things is doing comics and stuff myself is anything that you do like that is taking up valuable real estate, and if that's not adding value, get rid of it.
Agreed.
You're not doing it. It's like that didn't need to be there. You could have done anything else. So I like to say it's probably I get what they were trying to do, but in terms of we have our fictional editors type thing. Despite having the credit for the real editor at the side, but it doesn't work, and it's just getting rid of them.
And I know why. It's just hit me after 25 years. It's just hit me why it doesn't work. It's because these aren't editors. Yeah, they're just characters. Yeah, they're characters trapped in the warp who are saying, "Oh, there's going to be so many things you'll see." They're not treat like a Mega Droid or a Tharg. They're not saying, "Here's the issue I've made for you."
Yeah, as I said, it should have been, as you say, like an Inquisitor scrying through the warp, an Eldar Farseer, The thing is, what you probably would have been better to do is not have an actual one fictional editor just walk through every time, and you could slowly introduce all the various bits to your lore. Look,
Yeah,
oh, here's Eldrad Elfan talking about introducing your issue. To pick a named character and then just go through. Do it that way.
that would have actually been a much, much better idea. You know, the Calgar turns up to tell you about things. Skarsnik and Gobbler, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been much, much better. We'll see how we go as we go through the issues, but honestly, Gut Spume and Baneblade annoy the living hell out of me.
Yeah. Like Games Workshop gives you Microsoft AI / clip art far too in print form and does you no favors.
Yes. It really doesn't. Really doesn't. So, February 1998, Aqua's Dr. Jones is at #1 in the UK charts, which is honestly one of the finest examples of pop music that's ever been put together.
I love
And,
inane bubblegum pop has its place.
and I just love Aqua, to be honest with you. I think Aqua, another kind of a drop in the bucket type band now, but at the time they were just so happy. Yeah, and then you hit Turn Back Time from the Sliding Doors film, and it's actually, no, that's a really damn good song. That's a solid piece of music. Then, of course, over in the films, we've got Titanic, and Titanic will be at #1 until
For the
April.
rest of your life.
We're not going to get into Titanic because I don't know about you, but I've seen it once. I've no interest in seeing it again. I've got no interest in revisiting it.
I've never seen it. I had no interest in seeing it, not because I don't care.
Mhm.
I've read up enough of the story of what happened. This film's not going to tell me anything new.
No.
On you go.
But would you like to know the one interesting fact about Titanic that I find interesting?
What, the film?
Yeah, it's about the
Go
film.
for it.
So Titanic set the record opening for January for any film, beating Bram Stoker's Dracula, which held the title before it.
You mean, sorry, give it its proper title. Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yes, Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula, yes. A film so majestic that you got a film a couple of years later called Bram Stoker's The Mummy. Bram Stoker never wrote a story about the mummy.
Yeah. Let's just stick his name on it. He's dead. He can't complain.
I just find it really interesting that Bram Stoker's Dracula was the one that held the held the title before it.
Yeah.
What else happened this week in February 1998? Not a huge amount, really. Some stuff happened worldwide. Clinton gets impeached. We're not going to get into that right now, I don't think.
No.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer launches on Sky One, which is much better, but then also isn't in the same way.
Buffy is fine. There are two big things wrong with it. Joss Whedon, for obvious reasons, wrong one. Second, the series didn't need to continue past series 3. Once she leaves high school, it's done.
Agreed. The drop in quality happens very quickly.
Oh yes. Not to say there wasn't good stuff in it afterwards, but the actual whole premise of it is no. It's about her finding it. It's like Spider-Man and the early Stan Lee Spider-Man stuff. When Spider-Man leaves high school, that's it. Because the whole parable of it is about young man struggling to come to terms with adolescence going into being a man is a big part of the early Spider-Man stuff.
Yes. And then you get the late 80s, early 90s stuff where he's a very successful guy who's married to a supermodel. And you start to wonder...
Well, to be fair, he's never really successful. That's the thing. She just happens to be a supermodel.
Yes, yeah.
They're consistent, but I've got a lot of time for that. And again, to digress, Amazing Spider-Man 400, when they do finally let Aunt May pass away, one of the best single issues in modern US comics. Well, I say modern, it was in 1993, but one of the single best issues of US comics at the time.
I'd agree with that. I mean, to be honest with you, I was about to say I'll read Spider-Man no matter what, no matter how good or bad it is. But then I just remember the last 2 years of Amazing Spider-Man and had to change my mind very quickly.
Oh,
'Cause,
no, as in currently.
yeah,
Oh no,
the
I'm over the Zebwell. I'm loving the Zebwell stuff.
are
Uh,
you?
uh, Rec Rap is the best thing ever.
Oh no, Wreck Rap is amazing. I'm more talking about the Mary Jane in the alternate reality storyline.
Everyone hates Paul. Paul's going to get killed off, and everyone's going to cheer.
It's not as much Paul.
It is
It just
Paul.
Paul is terrible.
Everyone
Yes,
hates Paul.
it's the fact that it just feels really, really muddled. It's I don't know,
But
the what did Peter do thing. Just it never really sat with me.
okay, they got past it enough. No,
Yeah.
again, also John Romita Jr. on Spider-Man's always winner. However, Rec Rap, if you don't know, is a limbo demon accountant slash auditor that gets infected by a fraction of one of the Venom symbiotes,
Hmm.
and he becomes this big dumb version of Spider-Man called Rec Rap, and he web wangs. It's
Yep.
brilliant.
Yep.
Even if you're not interested in Spider-Man, go just Google Rec Rap and web wang and just look at the pictures. They're just so dumb and they're fun. There's people I know who hate the current Spider-Man as well, but I just go, you need to read about Rec Rap. And
I
they'll go,
agree with you.
and everyone just goes, that's brilliant. It's like, it's just so dumb. Dumb
Wreck
has
Rap
its
is just glory. It's just
dumb
glory.
dumb has its place, which is a nice segue into the first story because the first story they give us in the bridge is incredibly dumb.
It is, but I love it.
Oh yes, but it is also incredibly, incredibly dumb.
So,
So
script by Dan Abnett, art by Simon Colby, and letters by David Pugh. Basis of the story is there's a bridge, and there's an Orc army, and there's a Space Marine army, well, a Chaos Space Marine army, and they want the bridge, and they're going to go and fight for the bridge, and that's what they do.
well, as itself, it's not an uncommon 40k battle as well in terms of a scenario or that. So it's good. So if you're familiar with the games, it's fine. So I'm gonna talk about before we get into talk about the actual quality of the story and some of the creators involved. You are going to have Chaos Space Marines against Orcs. It's a nice choice in terms of
Hmm.
you were expecting. Would it be the Ultramarines or Bloody? It's like you've got Chaos. So this is technically. I want to hold the strategic point in a battle.
Yes. Yes.
So orcs, for all their dumb, have a rudimentary understanding of strategy and tactics, as has been shown repeatedly in 40k. They do warlords and warbands. They are all in service of the Great War. However, if you've got a chaos army and you're looking for a strategic deployment and defensive and a holding position, please tell me why you've got Khorne Space Marines involved. Like, they're not explicitly called World Eaters, but they say that they're in service of Khorne. Yay, blood for the Blood God by holding this critical supply line. It's it reads very much a could you just not rename a different Space Marine or a different god?
Yeah, I mean, it should, instead of having Blood for the Blood God, it should be for Abaddon or for Horus or something, yeah. The fact that it's Blood for the Blood God, and then, out of nowhere, you get a Chaos Sorcerer turning up,
Yeah,
who,
because
I'm
Khorne
not
was
entirely sure if he magics some missiles or not, but I think that's what happens.
yeah. It's a choice.
I will say, though, I think the artwork by Simon Colby is gloriously wonderful. It's just lots and lots of heavy shadowing. And this
Yeah,
is the type of stuff that I love to bits.
yeah. So Simon Colby is came to my attention more. He did a Transformer stuff, moved to 2000 AD, did some of the Rogue Trooper stuff. Now, for those in
Hmm.
the know, not Rogue Trooper, but Friday Rogue Trooper. I don't care. I
Yes.
liked it. Get over it.
Not wrong with it.
He was done dirty. However, he did that. He also picked up Death's Head 2 after Liam Sharp jumped ship.
Hmm.
So quite known for big, beefy, angular stuff. Lots of ultra violence. From again, it was in the 90s. For proper Rogue Trooper fans, he does return to Rogue Trooper in the 2000s for Jaeger and some of the Rogue stuff with Gordon Rennie, who will be a name we mention frequently over the coming episodes. Uh, this is slightly different from his style as I was accustomed to time in terms. It looks the same, but it looks like there's a lot more brushwork rather than dip pen because there's a lot of smudging, is
Yeah.
more textured than at the time. Not a bad thing, just it's noticeably different.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the musculature and the poses look very, very Simon Colby, so it's instantly recognisable. Again, the art gets a lot of room to breathe because it's not an in-depth story. So
Hmm.
it's a big dumb fight comic, which is kind of what you want with Orcs against Space Marines. It just
Yes.
didn't need anything about the strategic thing. It just should have been absolute dumb fight. It's it is very 2000 AD by the numbers, and the way it ends is everyone dies, and the only bit that's left standing is the little bit of the bridge where the last Chaos Space Marine and the last Orc Warrior are. The bit behind them on either end is gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's absurd and it's stupid, which is absolutely keeping because at its central conceit, Warhammer, the fiction universe of Warhammer 40k is absolutely dumb and stupid.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, everything's got to be ramped up to everything's got to be turned up to 11. Because if it's not turned up to 11, it gets drowned out by everything else that's turned up to 12. And it's exactly it. I mean, there's so many. There's some of these panels here. It's weird, actually. There's some panels here that remind me of like Nemesis the Warlock, especially on that first one where you see the Chaos Space Marine helmets and things. I can't quite place on what it is exactly, but there is something in there.
It's because the slightly angle. What it also reminds me of is the generic Generation 2 Decepticons from
Yes.
Generation 2. It's because the Terminator masks from Nemesis were kind of like that. It's all kind of strange, demented biker helmets from the mind of Kevin O'Neill. Cast a bit of a shadow and again, I'm very much an influence on a lot of 40k stuff.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Nemesis. I mean, Nemesis the Warlock is something that we might do a special on at some point because, so much of 40k comes out of Nemesis the Warlock. It's unreal. But then when you're onto the second page as well, you've got all these orcs, and each orc has a personality. It's not just cut and paste orc. It's every orc that you can see has a different look, and I love it. Love it. I mean, they don't look 100% like 40k orcs in some cases, but that's fine.
Again, the difference with that is like, oh yeah, you would samey. You have to kind of let your there's always a thing for a licensed property is how faithful or how on model you are, and how much do you let your artist get a little bit of wiggle room. And there's always a sweet spot, and you need to kind of do it. And I think orcs do that anyway because they're a strange fungusy mutated creature anyway. So why do they all look the same?
Yeah.
The variation of things, you kind of, I get you can't really go too far when you're doing like an Ultramarine, for example, because they are very much the orthodox. They have to all look Ultramarine. So it's probably good that you get Chaos Space Marines because you can have a little bit of fun. You can be a bit greebly with the stuff.
Yeah.
And no one's going to go, oh, that doesn't look quite right.
It looks absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much. And I think it's a sorcerer. I'm not entirely sure. It looks like a sorcerer, and it looks like it's got a force blade. But that is just such a glorious. I mean, I would love to have the page of the sorcerer and the orc. If that turns up anywhere to buy as the original page, I'm having it. I don't care how much it is. I'm having it. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, so basically the conceit of the story is the two sides fight, the war escalates, and it just gets to the point that the bridge is still standing, or at least one small section of it. It's just and clearly the implication is that they kill each other.
Yeah.
In the grim darkness of 41st millennium, there is only war and pointless death.
There is only war and a lack of bridge.
Yeah. Again, it's the typical kind of the O. Henry little daft thing in the tail. It's entirely tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Like Dan Abnett, who is probably, I would say, the most prolific writer now associated with 40k outside of the design studio people.
Yeah.
Just in terms of body of work.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's been doing stuff now for Black Library since the beginning, hasn't he, with Gaunt's Ghosts? So, since the beginning of the Black Library itself.
And again, also entrusted with all the big things as well. Like,
yes.
For whatever your opinions on the Horus Heresy, he's the one that initially kicks off, and he's the one that sticks the landing with the end and the death.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll put my hand up and say any of Dan Abnett's books are absolutely worth reading. Yeah, strong starter, strong end. Yeah. All the bits in the middle I don't like.
Yeah. I think it's because they didn't quite know where it was going to end and let it run itself. But so you kind of get that's your story in terms of it. Not too serious, nice and fun, inconsequential. Does it have a hook to get someone into the first issue? Probably not, if I'm being brutally honest. But that's why the previews come after it. So I think that this is just this is kind of a flavor piece. This is kind of what you may expect.
Yeah, yeah. I think much in the same way that the Deathwing story wasn't written for it. I wonder if this was something that was created a long time ago, because White Dwarf did have comics in it for a long period of time. Thrud the Barbarian and Gobbledygook and stuff like that. So I often wonder if something like this was originally meant to be in White Dwarf, but it never happened. And once
Probably,
again,
I don't think so, just because it looks later than Colby's stuff, which is kind of at
yeah,
the time that White Dwarf had kind of had knocked comics on the head. So
yeah,
this does
yeah.
feel more later. So I do believe this is probably mission, if maybe not for this, then maybe for Inferno, and then repurposed for
That's a good shout,
this.
actually. Yeah, it probably was something that was made for Inferno, and then they kept it because they did have. I'm trying to think now.
Well, they
3
had, let's
comics
say,
in Inferno.
yeah,
Yeah.
they would have occasionally longer ones, but they would all be one-offs. Their ongoing one was like the two-page one that David Pugh, who did the letters for this and
Hmm.
will contribute in Warhammer Monthly, was doing the two-page for that.
Yeah, yeah. The
I say,
Prize Death or whatever it was called.
yeah.
Yeah. So then the next page, we've got our our little Chaos Marauder and Space Marine again, talking about what's coming up in Warhammer Monthly, coming up with a collection of names.
So, uh, Dan Abnett, I think we've talked about. He gets his start at Marvel UK. He did some stuff for Transformers. It was the nominal editor of Toxic, which was kind of an alternate offshoot to 2000 that was spearheaded by Pat Mills, Wagner, Kevin O'Neill. He did not enjoy being the editor because he had to try and tell Pat Mills what to do. Never a fun thing, as if you read any interview with either Pat or any editors work with, Pat will tell you the things. Pat will not
I
deny this himself either, to be fair. He's quite honest about what he works with. So you've got Dan Abnett's probably is outside of the Warhammer stuff. His biggest thing is Sinister Dexter in 2000 AD,
Great
which
series.
I think it went on too long, and
Yeah.
but other
Okay.
people may enjoy it. But I it's one of these things. Is sometimes it's nice to let things end.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was the demand for it, so I can see why people brought it back. But Sinister Dexter is one of these things that had about 3 endings and kept coming back to them because people wanted more. So
That's true.
I,
That is true.
it shouldn't all be for me though. So it's not like I should be the final arbiter. Say no, I didn't like it, so it's ended. Although
That's it.
in hindsight,
So
I think no, it probably should because well, comics would be better now.
yes, there should always be a finite amount of stuff to come out. Shouldn't be infinite unless it's Judge Dredd.
So yeah, Simon Davis, who Mission Fiction 2008, very horror. Horror is basic. He does other stuff. He does Dread and does stuff, but any of the sort of horror related stuff in 2008, I heartily recommend. If you haven't, get Thistlebone available. It's folk horror around the filming of a knockoff Hammer slash Tygon film in rural UK and a conspiracy around it. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's something else, like, isn't it? It's legitimately unsettling.
Again, Simon is one of Dan's frequent collaborators on Sinister Dexter. Did
Yep.
quite a chunk of them in the late 90s and mid 2000s. Now, next guy, Simon Harrison, I absolutely love. Now, Simon had in comics, he had possibly one of the worst jobs you could actually take in theory. Uh, in the long running strip Strontium Dog in 2000 AD, the change in direction was they were planning on killing off the lead character Johnny Alpha. If you've seen Spaced, you'll know the whole bit about this.
Yes.
However, co-creator Carlos, the late Carlos Esquerra, said, "I'm not doing it. I like the character. I'm off." So Simon Harrison came and was the one that was tasked to do the strip. Now he did most of it before Colin McNeil took over the last couple of pages. His work's fantastic. It's very organic, very sinewy, metal as fuck.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah.
he was part of the trifecta that came into 2018 in the late 80s of artists that kind of was the next jolt, which was him, John Hicklinton of Nemesis the Warlock and a lot of other things, and sadly no longer with us, and another little chap you might have heard of called Simon Bisley. So they were the three finger death punch that came in 87, 88 that basically gave 2000 a bit of a shot in the arm in terms of art. Love all three. Simon kind of drifted out of comics. Recently came back to do a cover for 2000 AD and potentially might be doing more. I love it.
Oh, cool.
Great art. But he does Warhammer Fantasy Story later on, which will come, which we're a few episodes away from that yet, but you will see a preview in this if you're looking at issue 1. My favourite, when it comes to them, there will be no criticism of his art other than to say, this is brilliant, this is brilliant, this is brilliant, I love this, that's it. So I will not be objective. If there are any comments that say, I don't like it, you cannot like it. If you say it's bad, you're entirely wrong. And we will have words. I will Jay and Silent Bob you. I'll find out where you live and come round your house. This is the end of my TED Talk.
What if Harrison says he doesn't like his work?
He has actually said he doesn't. But again, no artist does, because the minute it's done, you move on to the next show. But next up's Kev Hopgood.
Yes.
Now, if you're of an age, in Marvel, we talked about Marvel Cave. In the 80s, they were the sort of golden age of licensed comics in terms of quality, in terms of story and production. You're getting fully painted art. Now, Kev Hopgood did some stuff for Action Force, which was the rebranded and much better G.I. Joe, because Flint was from England. And Wild Bill, the Texan pilot of the helicopter, was from Hull. No word of a lie, it's so much better. Also, Action Force had a better theme tune than G.I. Joe. The G.I. Joe theme tune is a dog turd.
Yes.
But Kev Hopgood did a little bit of Transformers that segued into Action Force, but also did a lot of Zoids.
Oh yes, and Zoids, Marvel UK's Zoids is like a pinnacle of British comics for me. It is beautiful.
Very early Grant Morrison work as well. But Kev Hopgood's biggest claim to fame even, is he was on Iron Man and he did the War Machine armor.
Yeah.
So that's so how this dropped. Kind of did some stuff in 2000 AD, kind of floated around. Bill Kaplan, editor and writer from DC and Image, as they say. I'm struggling to remember much of his work outside of comics. Outside of Warhammer, if I'm being honest. I don't think he did much of what I was reading. So.
No. I mean, Image Comics at this time would be on the downswing, wouldn't it? Because they'd have lost everyone but McFarlane and Eric Larson.
No, because Silvestri came back.
He did.
Jim Lee's still with them at the time. Cliffhanger goes in 99.
Okay.
So Wildstorm goes in 99. But Image was a little bit on the down at the time.
Yeah.
But I'm generally just struggling to remember what books he did.
No.
Next up's Karl Kapinski. So he's your noob. This is basically, he will become a fixture doing art for Games Workshop after this.
Yes.
And again, Cal Jericho is issue 1, his first published comic strip. Cal is one of the characters that gets a miniature.
Yep.
Becomes that popular. And becomes, again,
books.
Some books, and is a fixture in that. Logan Libera is I've seen his stuff, it was very imagey, kind of similar to Jeff Matsuda, for anyone who knows. Jeff Matsuda did X Factor and some Kaboom and all that.
Yes.
Very angular, cartoony. All right, not entirely to my tastes, but good work. Next up, Colin McNeil. He's fantastic. As I say, his painted artwork is brilliant. A litany of, just to say, Chopper Song of the Surfer, Judge Dredd America, the tail end of The Final Solution. So many stories, but too many to mention in terms of his stuff in 2000 AD. Did loads of stuff from covers from Marvel US. Did 2-part Savage Sword of Conan, where he teams up with Solomon Kane. Well worth checking out.
Yes.
Just gorgeous in this case of
it's funny, actually.
Meaty artwork.
It's funny, actually. The only reason I've read that is because I have this uncontrollable urge to read anything about Solomon Kane. I don't know what it is, but I just need to get Solomon Kane into my veins whenever he shows up anywhere.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad did you think the movie was?
I actually quite liked it. It's not good.
No, that's what I mean. You can still like it, but not bad.
Yeah.
Like I have seen Universal Soldier: Day of Reckoning more than any human on the planet. I watch it when I'm ironing, because no matter how big my ironing pile is, I end at the same point and then watch the rest of the film. No matter how big it is, it's the same point in the film when they're in the adult entertainment place and Dolph Lundgren just starts striding in ready to start a fight. it's always at that bit that it stops. In fact, I'll watch this film now.
If I was to review the Solomon Kane movie, I'd give it a 3 out of 10, but I'd also give it an 8 out of 10. Because honestly, man, I will happily watch that film any day of the week. I know it's bad, but my God, it's good.
Yeah. So next up, Pat Mills. If you've read UK comics, you know he gave the name to Judge Dredd, co-created and basically co-founded 2000 AD, Action, Blaine, Nemesis the Warlock, Martial Law, ABC Warriors. Does his own stuff now. Had a bit of falling out with 2000 AD, hence why there's none of his stuff in 2000 AD anymore.
Mm-hmm.
A run joke I had with a friend of mine is when they took the ABC Warriors back to Mars in the year 2000, as in the year 2000, it's like he said they're never getting off Mars. Pat walked away from 2000 AD in 2023, technically, as they were still on Mars. Anyway, but Pat when he's on form is fantastic, and the quality and breadth of his work speaks for his talent. Not all of it sticks to landing. Some of it isn't great.
No, he's got interesting thoughts nowadays.
Yes, there's that as well. He's I suppose angry old men need to calm down, or they just start shouting at the wrong things.
Yeah. It's much like Richard Dreyfuss. He's got interesting thoughts in his old age. And I think that's the only thing we should really say about that.
Correct. So next up, you've got David Pugh, who we referenced. He did the Deathwing stuff. Again, another artist in Slain. I like his work. I don't like it's like artists hate being compared to other artists, but as if you're not familiar with David Pugh, if you have read the aforementioned Nemesis the Warlock, the Brian Talbot stuff, David Pugh is in that wheelhouse. There's common touches there in terms of how they approach structure and rendering. They aren't too far away from each other. Not a copy. Not I wouldn't say one's aping the other. It's just it's like if you like Brian Talbot's work, you will like David Pugh's work, and vice versa. You'll find them appealing.
I do like the fact it says that he draws great spaceships.
Oh, he does. That's the thing.
He really does. Yeah.
This is not a lie.
No, it's just the perfect way to describe his career. Really, he draws great spaceships.
Yeah.
Obvious tactics in Inferno, which I do remember that, and I do remember it being. It's a very fluffy little story, but the artwork is gorgeous.
Yeah. Next up, Jeff Rebner, who's animator. In terms of his comic work, the only thing I can recall reading was he did half of issue 450 of the Incredible Hulk, which is the time where Bruce Banner is the frothy. Oh, sorry, no, this is when Bruce Banner is in the Heroes Reborn universe. After that, so you've got just basically the Hulk is kind of a big, angry, soulless type thing.
Yeah, he's just a wrecking machine.
It's not a brief period in the pad run. So again, very much kind of the Image school at the time.
See, the other one that he's mentioned here is Cybernary. Do you remember Cybernary?
Yes, because I remember Cybernary was a flip book, if memory serves me.
Correct.
Because it was the original artist was a young gentleman called Nick Manabat, who I believe at the time was the Image boys were touting him as the guy. Yeah. He was going to be the next guy. But unfortunately, I believe he was ill and passed away of cancer at quite an unfortunately young age. Not that there's any good age to pass away from cancer, but I believe he died quite young. And his body of work was not massive because he was ill not long after hitting the big time. But no, I remember the Cybernary was kind of a ram horn, sexy cybernetic assassin woman. The Image kind of teenage cheesecake style, but his art was good and I liked it.
I remember that
not all cheesecake TNA is bad, kids. It's just you don't need every comic to be exactly that. Variety is the spice of life.
Yeah. I remember it being on the shelf next to like Wild Child or Dark Child, sorry, and stuff like that, and it stood out for not being as bad as Dark Child.
Yes, I remember Dark Child as well. Dark times. But
I remember picking an issue of that and Painkiller Jane up at the same time.
Did you then go and have a lie down in a dark room until the urge passed?
Pretty much.
Yes, so the 90s were a challenging time for comics for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
So next up is Gordon Rennie, who a workhorse in 2000 AD and and a lot of Games Workshop stuff as well. For 2000 AD, at one point you kind of thought he was going to be the heir apparent to John Wagner on Dread.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that he didn't. It's just he was very much, whenever there was someone else who was not a John Wagner doing it, the quality wasn't quite there. And at any time it was it's Gordon though. That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're now blessed. We have a whole host of people, so there's no longer kind of the obvious I'm taking over from Wagner when Wagner finally says I'm done doing Dread. There's a pool of writers now. And Gordon is still amongst them, but not as frequently. He tends to now kind of settled into the Rogue Trooper universe.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of stuff, flashback stuff with Rogue and Jaeger as well, which is fantastic. Lovely man, met him several times. Obviously, he's in Scotland, but Scottish comic conventions, you will catch him quite a bit.
Gordon Rennie is the one that always jumps out at me. I'm a big fan of his work. Not just in 2000 AD. I think the novel stuff he did, Zavant. I know it's a book that probably no one's ever heard of, but the idea of like a Sherlockian Holmes guy and his Hobbit is just wonderful. Yeah, it's really solid stuff, and I'm always a fan of Rennie's work.
Yeah, no, I'd say same as well. Just and again, just because John Wagner gives off I'm a dour Scotsman, it's like it's kind of fitting that because Gordon does kind of give off and the dour Scotsman vibe as well. It's like, yeah, you really should have another dour Scotsman writing Dread. It's just the thing.
Makes perfect sense to me. No one gets Dread like a dour Scotsman.
Yeah. And so rounding up last we have Kev Walker, who, as they say, ABC Warriors is where he kind of I first encountered his work. But he'd obviously done stuff for Games Workshop before and after this.
Yeah.
Heavily did some of the Judge Dredd movie designs. The ABC Warrior robot design was heavily based on his Hammerstein. So him and Chris Cunningham, aka Chris Halls, did a lot of that. Doing a lot of stuff for Marvel these days, rather than hasn't really done a huge amount for 2000 in an age. And I think the last thing was the prelude to Origins for Dread.
Okay, that's a while back then.
A while back, but no, a fantastic up from the ABC was gorgeous, fully painted stuff. And he's done, I say, a lot of stuff for Games Workshop. That Karn the Betrayer image from Inferno.
Yes.
You know the one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. So it's nice that they're actually giving you, and unusual for kind of Games Workshop, because aside from giving bylines, it's not really they didn't really make a big thing about who did what.
No.
Like even in their codexes, for example, they'll list the people that did all the artwork, but they won't actually tell you who did what bits.
No, it would just be the list of the people who worked on it rather than.
So here they're kind of calling out, these are some artists. So, and like I say, if you weren't comics very au fait with comics, aside from Kev Walker, that's probably the only name that you'll know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because the Gaunt's Ghost stuff had that started yet.
No.
I think Dan's name's probably been mentioned in White Dwarf at this point, because I'm sure they would have mentioned this is coming up. But I don't think the Gaunt's Ghosts and all that had started by this point.
No, Gaunt's Ghosts were in Inferno at this point, but there was no book.
Yeah, so Dan and Kev are the only two names you'll really be aware of if you're not versed in the world of comics.
Yeah,
if you are, there's quite a few that will be there, and there's a couple that won't necessarily be as familiar. I say Bill Kaplan, Logan Libera, and Jeff Reb will be the obvious ones.
Mm-hmm.
The rest you'll have some knowledge of, possibly. But it's interesting to know the
Kapinski for me.
Again. But it's nice to go, no, but it's also quite nice that here's a new person, so, as well.
Yeah.
And it's also nice that they've not mentioned them last, which is rather telling. But they've done it in alphabetical order, which for the surname, which is kind of a nice way to get round of egos and who would be top.
Mm-hmm.
But it does mean that it's nice that it's not, the new guy's in after. Oh, by the way, we've also got this new guy.
Yeah. I hadn't realised that, but yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, they've done that just after of our surname, which again, because you then have to go with the hierarchy of who's the most famous and what would it be, blah blah blah. So like the
Yeah.
alphabetical order, there you go. So that's what I'm kind of saying. Here's what's going. Yeah, Space Marine boys talk some more pish afterwards, which will expect this throughout. We will pay next to no attention to anything those two idiots say in the little segues because they're just tedious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to do this every episode, but Guts Bume in his entire soon Cord will grant me knowledge of bolt guns and yes, and chainswords, and then I will. And it's just, come on, come on, eh? Just,
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels like a massive missed opportunity, and I don't want to keep hammering the anvil on that one.
Let's try and get all the way this one so we just gloss over them
Yeah,
going forward. I think Gentleman's Agreement will try not to talk about them.
yeah, they're there. We know they're there. We'll
Yeah.
try our best to move past them.
Yeah.
So we're now into some previews. So we've got one-page previews of Darkblade, Blood Quest, and Shadowfast. Now it's interesting. Darkblade, that lives in my brain rent-free. It's just been there since the beginning. It will never leave me, I don't think. I fucking love Darkblade.
Yeah, for me, it was more the artwork that got me on this than the story, just because when you've got like demon possessed, slightly anti-hero stuff, it's like my mind just immediately starts drifting towards Elric of Melnibone. You're like,
Yes.
it casts a long shadow, and it's not a knock necessarily on the work of the actual story, but you're just like, I can't help but look at him and go, yay, that was kind of, there is a little bit of the Elric with the serial numbers filed off here.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, I'm not saying that's a conscious choice. It's just the shadow that's cast of Elric. It's an important thing.
Yeah, it's something that's been around for 30 years by this point. It's hard to get out from underneath its shadow. Yeah.
The one of the things from a aesthetic point of view is I love the artwork. The lettering sticks out like a sore thumb because it's obviously digital.
Yes.
And it's the integration of the two. I will moan about this a lot over the course of it. It's a bit of a thing. Is lettering should be integral to the story. When it's not, it will take you out of it. And it's digital. It's obviously digital, and it's obviously V-shaped and what have you. I can letter a little bit, so I know kind of can speak to this with a little bit of authority. But that's a technical thing. But it does annoy me a little bit, and it always kind of you're fighting for it not to take you out. But it's there. It's like, oh. But in terms of the set piece, it gives you not a huge amount. So you've got your pretentious little bit of narration, and you've got fight scene, kind of.
When you say pretentious bit of narration, it's so 80s Warhammer. It doesn't feel like 90s Warhammer. It feels like 80s Warhammer. Yeah. Cursed by the foul demon Tzaka, Malice Darkblade has been forced to embark upon a dangerous quest to recover 5 ancient artifacts. Accompanied by only his faithful Cold One Spite, the Dark Elf must brave the terrors of the Chaos Wastes until he has found his elusive treasures and regains his freedom. Now, if you imagine some MIDI going in the background of that, that's the introduction to a Warcraft game.
Yeah, it's very much it's one thing. It's like, yeah, I get you kind of having to sell the piece in like a paragraph, and it's like it's not. It doesn't do it any favors.
No, it's so overwrought. But I can't help but love it because it's so overwrought. It's like listening to a Tool album. It's great.
Oh yeah, there's an appreciation for it, but in terms of if I'm trying to sell that to random Joe, you're not. I would have just let the art speak for itself.
Yeah. To be honest, it probably would have been better to have just the art without any speech bubbles in it, because that would have grabbed you.
Yeah. It's also the thing of, from a design point of view, there is no negative space on that page to draw the eye because they've done it all in black. White borders for that, just please, because it just becomes overly grey.
It's hard to pick out any detail.
It's like I get that by date again we're looking copies, but even so, it's like no, put some white on that page.
Yes, yeah.
Like you need to make that pop a little bit.
It'll be interesting to see as we get into the issues themselves, just how much Because the thing that sticks in my mind, and to pull back the curtain a little bit, what I've done here is I have purposely not read ahead. I am reading the issue a couple of times before we start recording.
Same. I'm doing the same just to come in because also I don't want to try and jump ahead and stuff. And
yeah, I've got my memories from reading this back in the day, but that's it. And well, not from back in the day. I've got memories from reading this about 2002, 2003. It's the last time I went through it. So a lot of what's in my head is like emotional response, and it's a lot of internal memory from that time. So what I remember about Darkblade is just this really oppressive atmosphere, which I just adored. But it's going to be interesting going into it now and seeing, is it because it's so black and so lack of negative space, and does that run as a detriment to it?
Because if we, let's say, should have just done some art, that would have been enough.
Yeah. The next preview is BloodQuest, and if you wanted white, here's a lot of white.
Exactly, but again, there are numerous bits to draw the eye on this page, which is much more effective than the other one. So right away, again, let me get it out of the way. The lettering is not very good. It's generic. You can see there's no, like, I've just squashed the ellipse tool in Illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
Again, does it no favors, but again, just it speaks to what I said. Is there you go, right off the bat. Panel 2. There's Mephiston.
Yep, there
Panel
is.
4. There's Commander Dante, and we're done.
Yep.
So we're setting up again. Brother Captain Leonatus is basically he's in his last mission. He's done well, but somehow at the same time also shat the bed. As a result, we're exiling you. But however, because you've lost this relic, if you bring it back, we'll let you back in. So he foolishly goes, all right, I'm away off to do this then.
I don't remember Space Marines being exiled because that turns them into renegades.
Again, it's well, the thing is, so long as they don't tell position that.
Yeah. I don't remember if an Inquisitor turns up in BloodQuest or not. But...
well, neither do I. But again, Gordon Rainey and again Colin McNeil, it's lovely rendered black and white stuff. This is kind of what he was doing at the time, sort of the mid '90s in the magazine on things like Shimura and Maelstrom and various other bits and bobs. So he'd effectively done some of the sort of space judges stuff. So I think whoever was when they were commissioning it, someone had clearly been seeing it, going, yeah, he'll be a good fit. Bring him on board.
Yeah.
And here's what he is. Because as you can see, the thing for Space Marines is they have heft. Because by design they're bulky, and you see it. There's weight on all of those. There's a mass and a heft, which doesn't always come across in Space Marine art.
No, that's true. It's going to be interesting going through this one as well, because BloodQuest, I remember very clearly enjoying it to begin with, but then my interest kind of waned off real fast.
It's very much there's a MacGuffin, you've got to find it. Now these stories, by their very nature, there's one of two things happen. There's three things can happen. One, they find the MacGuffin and the story ends. This is the preferred ending. The second ending is they never find it. They keep making up things to extend it, and the story drags on, and your interest wanes. This is not a desired thing. The third outcome is they find the MacGuffin, they bring it back, but they find a way to keep the story going. This is the worst of all possible outcomes. This is what happened to Roll Trooper in 2000 AD, when he used to have to hunt for the Traitor General. He then found the Traitor General, and they kept telling stories, and it got really bad.
So where does Quantum Leap come in into that one? Because
Quantum Leap ended at exactly the right time. You got a satisfying ending from a thematic point of view.
Yes.
And it left you with, in your head, Sam did whatever you wanted to do in your head. It said he never found his way home. Well, how do you know that? He could have found a way home and just kept it on the down low. Or no, he chose not to and carried on living a life helping other people. So Quantum Leap ended at the right time. I think had Quantum Leap continued, Quantum Leap would have died on its backside and would not be thought of as fondly as it is now.
It's funny whenever everyone talks about a like a fetch quest or anything like that. Even though Quantum Leap isn't a fetch quest, it's automatically what jumps into my brain.
Oh, it's things like you're on this never. It's like Kung Fu,
Yeah.
the TV series, like with Kwai Chang Caine. Unfortunate the casting of David Carradine and all that. Nothing that would fly in this, but it was always I'm going from town to town on this never-ending quest of whatever.
Which was the better version of Kung Fu then? Was it the Bill Bixby Incredible Hulk, or was it the Littlest Hobo?
That's a tough call. I think just on theme tune alone, Littlest Hobo.
Yeah.
It has to take it on a way. Basically, that edges it. It's like the Hulk theme tune. While Lonely Man is a wonderfully evocative theme,
Mm-hmm.
Littlest Hobo theme is an absolute banger. And it's taking all my self-control not to start singing it right now. FYI.
I'll have you know that the Littlest Hobo has got some of the greatest internal lore building I've ever seen in a TV series. That series goes places. It's amazing. Yeah. Should we move on to the next preview?
Yes. So I will hear no criticism other than the lettering. I do think the lettering is really bad, but it's more the overlay of the lettering dialogue. The actual lettering of the story actually looks like it's hand drawn.
Yes.
It's a much better fit. The scrolls with the drop shadow and the quite obviously font usage, not so much. The art is fantastic. I will hear no criticisms. I told you earlier. That's to the audience, not to you, Adam.
I'm not arguing with you. I think the art for this is absolutely bloody gorgeous. I think the art for here is the best that we've had in the issue so far. I mean, the sheer amount of movement in the Beastmen, how grotesque the Beastmen are, the liveness of the elf.
Yeah, that's one of the things that start for Simon Harrison's work is there's a kinetic energy to it. He's not afraid to do monstrous and ugly. If you see Strontium Dog, the no-go job in the final solution, you'll see a lot of that work. Or even Bradley in 2008. It's very sinewy, athletic. The anatomy isn't always 100% on point, but I don't mind that in comics because it's about in service of the story.
Yes, agreed.
But it's always gorgeous, fine detail. I say you may see at times that the backgrounds are Spartan, but the backgrounds are there when they need to be there. It's about in service of what you're watching, which is basically this sinewy elf character fucking shit up.
What I find interesting is a lot of the times you see, and we'll get into this more as we get into the stories proper. What you see is either a lot of kinetic movement or a lot of detail in comics. It's very rare you see both at the same time. Somehow there is I wouldn't say an overabundance of detail, but the eye is drawn to the detail that's there after the fact, and it's so well done. It's so well done.
Oh, as I said, Simon, along with John Hicklington and Bisley, were this wonderful 3-inch punch that came into 2018 at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
One on Nemesis, one on ABC Warriors, and then Simon got Strontium Dog. So you got basically 3 of the pillars of 2018 in the hands of these young kids that are just it's like this does not look too much like what came before. It's like we're doing our own thing. We're as metal as fuck. Get out of our way.
Yeah.
Basically went on to basically arguably clips the other two, but they all share some commonality in that the work is very sinewy, very very vital, very energetic, very violent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and also cool.
It's funny, I don't have much in the way of memory of Shadowfast, so I'm looking forward to getting into that one.
I remember the art, but I cannot remember anything of the story, which may not be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It also may not be a bad thing because it means it possibly wasn't horrifically horrible either.
That's true, very true.
we can be just as equally drawn to the garbage as we are to the greatness. So.
Yes, and there's definitely some garbage coming up over the next few.
Yeah. So again, so on the next one, Predator and Prey.
Mm-hmm.
It's Gordon Rennie and it's David Pugh. So as I said before, for anyone's there, if you're aware of the works of, let's say, Brian Talbot, you'll find this is not a million miles away. Again, lovingly detailed. It's clearly Tyranids,
Yes.
although we're not being told it's clearly Tyranids.
I'm getting flashbacks here to comic. Now, whether it was 2000 AD or something else, and it was just these big gooey dinosaurs eating people. But I'm going to have to try and work out what that is, because I'm just getting these weird flashbacks to something here.
2000 did have that. They had Flesh, which was
I know
early
Flesh.
days.
Yeah.
The very early days of 2000 AD, but then came back around Prague. What's that? Between 7 and 800, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The Flesh came back, and it's periodically came back.
Yeah. Might have been Flesh, but
The
I know
only
I've
other
read
one I think
Flesh
of is
more
Slaughter
recently.
Bowl, which is basically people and dinosaurs killing each other and basically tournament fighting. I don't think it's that.
No, this was dinosaurs eating people that looked very 1930s. Yeah, I will have to look into that one and try and work out what it is.
No, so this is very much it's a planet on the fringe of Imperium space. It's a strange alien thing. It's clearly a Tyranid thing, because that's the Tyranid MO. Turn up on the fringe of Imperial space, start taking over.
What's the planet called?
Caladan. Part of me wonders, was this done at the 11th hour and went, no, we've got one already, mate, and you need to change that. And I was like, make it Caladan.
It's all right. It's just Caladan. We'll just
Yep.
leave that where it is. The next preview.
Or to give it its full name, Caladaniel. We're not familiar enough with it yet to abbreviate. Let's give it its formal name.
Yeah. Hello, my name is Caladaniel. I'm a planet full of alien creatures, possibly. The next preview, it's the one I'm most excited to revisit. I am genuinely chomping at the bit, because the next preview is Titan.
Yeah.
Oh.
Here we got image of the Titan, which is is it a Warhound Titan? I'm trying
Warlord.
So Warlord attack. Warhound's a small one with a dog face.
Yes, dog face.
Not as good as the Imperator Titan, because that's just a church on legs. And to digress a little bit, back in the day of Epic, a friend of mine had the game, and in our small circle at the time, so only, this is before our club, so only about 3 or 4 of us would play. One of our friends took this very, very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
One did not. The one who had the Imperator Titan did not. So they were having a game, and so here's my battle sheet. What's your Titan? Oh, this is my Titan, Douglas the Destroyer. The friend who took the game seriously, I think it was about 20 minutes before we started playing, because he had a rant about how you can't play the game because that's not the right name for a Titan. That doesn't happen. And I was the impartial referee going, I'm good with it. Partly because it was winding said friend up even more.
Yep.
Douglas did it at any time. It's like I see an Imperator art attack.
I think that at some point we need to see if we can commission a Douglas the Destroyer piece of art from one of the artists from Warhammer Monthly.
Love Douglas the Destroyer. So yeah, so Titan I loved. Again, bizarrely, we don't get a name check of Anthony Williams or Andy Lanning, who are the art team on the book in this one. Coming an issue, but yeah, we'll not tell you who they are. It's like, Dan Abnett, as you say, Dan Abnett, basically Games Workshop's fictional workhorse.
Yes.
Like, I am the beast of burden. Carry the load. I can take it. Give it to me. Give me all the stories. Give me all the stories.
Give me all the stories, and I will take this one story and create 3 books of ginormous multitude out of all of them.
Yeah, so you got it's Anthony Williams as IPC Fleetway artist. I first noticed him doing stuff in Mask and Supernaturals, for Mage Kids, and then he moved on to a lot of American stuff as well. Slightly cartoonier artist, which is quite nice. Again, could still do the drama stuff, but he had a lot more comedic cartooning chops, and that a lot of 2000 artists didn't really get to demonstrate.
Mm-hmm.
He tended to find with any of the Dread satire where there's a bit of a light-hearted thing. give it to. He would end up doing the artwork for a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
But still, again, always loved his art. So again, here you go. It's just your thing of there's the Titan. Here's your four lead cast, four of your
Mm-hmm.
principal cast for the show. Your acting princeps, the tactical officer, the weapons guy, and the chief engineer. And it's going to be all the battles of. I know most of you know is like obviously the machine, the spirit of the machine, the Titan is obviously influenced by the personalities that are bonded with it.
Yeah, yeah. That's. I mean, I'm looking at it now, and it's just everything on this page is just so in my wheelhouse. I love it. Also, I like the fact that the chief engineer is called Dawn.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a theme going on here.
Yeah. Like the only criticism I ever had about Titan was when you because obviously the strip's in black and white, but when you first see it on it gets across this green
Mm.
metal thing, it's like, come on.
Yeah, yeah.
Which I know we say we wouldn't talk ahead, but it's in my head now. But I'll again, big big angry gun robot. I'm on board with that.
Absolutely. And I remember the first story being really good, but I remember the second story being stunning. Now it'll be interesting to see if my memory connects to reality at all.
Yeah. So
And then we've got Grundhelm's Grudge, which something else. Really, really nice art, but I do not remember this story at all.
I it's again you talked about this is the one that feels very much like early White Dwarf.
Yes. No, very much so, yeah. Yeah, Carl does an amazing job of kind of harking back to that late 80s feel that White Dwarf had, like the Warhammer had, I should say,
Yeah.
before the annoyingly performed house style came in.
Yeah. But it's as a preview, it just it's a dwarf. You've seen bits of stories. He has a grudge. Apparently, he's mad. There's some Skaven.
You'd think
There's
that would keep in my mind because they're Skaven, but no.
no just or is it Beastmen? It's hard to tell. But
I
the
think they're
face looks like
Skaven.
Skaven.
I mean, they're doing the kill, men.
Yeah.
So that looks like a rat ogre. Oh yeah, and it's got Skaven symbols on his wrist. So yeah,
Also, that's right. We're good.
so
Uh,
definitely a rat ogre.
but it's more. Yeah. This I look at it and go. There is nothing in that page that makes me want to read the story.
Well, I mean, the Skaven that's got my interest, but
But
even so,
you're like, this is like no. This feels very much like you're not telling me why I want to read this, and it's
but the problem is you've got this wanted poster in the middle of it, which means that you can't really see any of the stuff behind
yeah,
it. So you're trying to serve two masters here. You're trying to create a stark image in order to get your interest, but also trying to give you a bit of the comic to try and get your interest. And having both of them at the same time means you've got neither of them.
yeah. And again, by order of the Midden Rim for the crime of killing elves on the Emperor's Highway. I mean, if you're going to do the wanted poster, there's scope to do. You could do a wanted poster. I mean, I've seen it for a lot of promos, but it's like give it a bit of character.
Yeah.
This is this is just like this is lovely art. I'll read this when it comes out, but you've not sold me on it.
No. No, I agree with you on that. I think the biggest problem I've got with it is that the wanted poster's got the alt-off symbol right in the middle of the text. It becomes really hard to read the text. It doesn't stand out.
Yeah.
It all just falls into a mud.
And on our next thing, here's how to get hold of your copy. So they're trying to get their subscriptions in straight away.
Handy.
12
You can get
issues.
12 issues for the price of 11.
To be fair, you get 20. That's 22 quid.
Yeah.
For 12 issues. It's like I'll take that.
Absolutely.
But,
I'll take that now.
Yeah.
Happily. And then you get £10 worth of money off vouchers for Games Workshop games and miniatures too.
Yep.
What?
Yeah. And again, you see, mail order. There is no website. There is no email. It's do you want to subscribe? You can phone. That's your lot.
It's interesting to me that you've got phone numbers for the US, Canada, Australia, Hong Kong, France, Germany, Italy, and Spain.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of places for it to be launched all at once. Can't have been not launched all at the same time. Can't have been.
Well, no, it could have been, because if you're printing in the UK,
Mm-hmm.
you'll probably have US production facilities for printing. But like I say, because it's digital, it'll be easy enough to do. Shipping to Europe at the time, because it was in a wonderful world before the Tories ruined everything, wouldn't have been hugely expensive. Australians are used to being bilked for shipping for everything, unfortunately.
Yeah, the nice beaches tax.
Yeah.
And then we have the final tale, The Summoning. Script by Andy Jones, art by Simon Davis, and lettering by David Pugh. And it's a small tale of a necromancer of some description trying to get the soul out of someone in order to get more power, and he discovers that the soul is already taken by a chaos god. And it's lovely art. But once again, this is such a nothing story with a sting in the tail.
Again, it's the one thing. Again, it's like we're kind of hammering home. There aren't any good guys in 40k and Warhammer, and now for Warhammer Fantasy, because guess what? It's like chaos are fighting the undead.
Yes.
But
I feel this should have been a chaos and orc fantasy story, just to mirror the first story.
I think probably not, just because it would be very samey. But it's like, these are just ones with guns, and these have got sticks and swords instead. No, again, it's quite nice. Oh, I'm summoning for a soul. Oh, I don't have one that's already gone.
One of the things I really like here is that the necromancer. We always see necromancers in Warhammer as just being these grubbly old men. This is the grubbliest of grubbly old men. This guy is like, you don't want to go near him because it feels like he's gonna get something. You're gonna catch something nasty.
Yeah. Yeah, well, to be fair, he's basically desiccated and partly on his way to death anyway, so yeah, it fits. No, the artwork's fantastic. As Simon Davis is an ideal horror artist, so
yeah,
pitch perfect for doing a fantasy.
I love how much close up there is in it. You know, there's no real landscapes as such. There's one at the very beginning, but everything else is either mid-range or real in-your-face close-up.
Again, you get what you need, which is there's a horrible battlefield, stuff's going on. Here's the thing: you want it to be tight, claustrophobic.
Just, claustrophobic's the right word. It's very claustrophobic.
It's also a thing of like a lot of things people criticize comics for is a lot of talking head scenes, and it's like, it's part and parcel of it. But these are interesting. We move tight in, the angles change. It's not just the same one shot, two shot, back of head looking back at him. It's no, we'll move the camera angles.
Yeah, and you get to see the sort of. I like the fact that the guy, the Chaos Warrior, well, Chaos Marauder, I should probably say, who's strapped down to the table or whatever it is, the angle for him moves around his head. Yeah. It's like a Tarantino sweeping shot.
Yeah.
So every time he comes back, it's slightly moved along, and it's so good. It gives this idea of a space without actually showing you the space, and that's such a wonderful thing. The downside is that I think the last couple of panels on this, the dialogue kind of gets real clangy. It's then I claim you.
The demon that's been summoned goes full national lottery on him. For those that must remember the advert.
That does sound like a threat. It could be you.
Yeah. But again, it's a case of, I sold my soul to Chaos 1,000 years ago. You'll have no claim on me. Yeah, but he's killed you anyway, mate. So you're not really coming in ahead of the game, and your soul's going to the demon you sold it to. So quite frankly, you aren't winning any of this.
No, you've lost horribly in every conceivable way.
All it needs he's lost as well. It's like, yeah, you know what? Warhammer Monthly, the zero sum game. Nobody gets out alive. Are you a character in a Warhammer fantasy story? A Warhammer Monthly story. I'm sorry to hear that. I think statistically speaking, you might be fucked.
Are you a character in a Warhammer Monthly story? Our lawyers are waiting to hear from you.
Yeah. Were you promised victory of some description and then horribly betrayed?
Guy just comes walking in from an angle. Hi, are you a character in a Warhammer Monthly story?
Yeah.
Reminds me of the old Marcus Brickstock joke of, hi, do you have thousands of tiny penises just slapping you in the face every day? Well, we will take those tiny penises and transform them into one massive cock that will fuck you for the rest of your life. One of the best jokes I've ever heard.
Yeah. And so we round off the issue with a little survey. Used to be a big thing in UK comics as well. Get the kids to tell you what you've got. Now, do they do the sensible thing of offering a freebie or a competition prize? They do not. So I wonder, did they get much feedback?
Probably not. I've got this feeling that they probably didn't get a huge amount of feedback. I mean, I do like the fact that there's a competition in the next issue to win the artwork from the first issue, and I don't understand why I don't remember entering that. I'm sure I would have entered that, but I've got no memory of doing it.
Well, the fact you didn't win it, which is more important. So whether you remember it or not, it's like you didn't win. So
unless I entered and I won, and I never knew about it, I've never picked up my prize.
I'll rather come to that point. If you've not claimed it, someone else has it by now.
No, I didn't win it, and it's sitting there in a little stamped self-addressed envelope to me, but I don't know about it.
And we get the confirmed lineup for issue 1, which flies in the face of what we said earlier because it's Gordon Rennie's comic.
Yes, it really is, isn't it?
I was like, yeah, Dan, no. You just sit down. Gordon's in charge for the moment. So
Gordon's got a lot of work to do. Dan's just working on stuff for the future. Dan's just started writing The End and the Death Part 1, that's why. So he needs to take some time off to...
Again, Darkblade, Blood Quest, Predator in Play, and Cal Jericho.
I am looking forward to Cal Jericho.
Yeah.
I love Cal Jericho. So I'm going to go through this little survey with you, Andy, because I feel that we need to know. We need to know exactly where we were at this point in 1998. Yep. So I play Warhammer 40,000, Epic, Warhammer Quest, Necromunda, or Gorka Morka.
I play all bar Gorka Morka because I did get the game we had the game at the club for playing, but I didn't have a set myself, and it was fine, but it's like, yeah, not really for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've never revisited it, so again, it was more just a case of I was more interested in. At that point, Warhammer Quest was more an occasional thing, quite like Necromunda. Epic was grand because you could just get big, massive Space Marine armies. And 40k was great. Yeah, and the Titans were all good, but I just like the idea of having an entire Space Marine chapter or 5.
Mm-hmm.
40k, of course, and Warhammer because my Chaos Dwarf boys.
Yes. They're all the way over there.
I've just bought the other Blood Bowl, and I did still play because we had access to it. Man of War.
Oh, Man of War was so good. Dreadfleet was shit. Man of War was awesome.
Man of War was where it's
at. For myself at the time, I was playing Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I think I had an Orc army for 40k in 98. Didn't play Epic. Did play a lot of Warhammer Quest. Did play a lot of Necromunda. And had a Revolutionary Grots army for Gorka Morka. But I think that might be a bit later on. Do you think the idea of Warhammer Monthly is good, bad, or excellent?
I would say at this stage, just on issue 1, I would say good.
Mm-hmm. I thought this preview issue was good, bad, or excellent.
I would say good.
The strip I look the most of is Darkblade, Blood Quest, Predator and Prey, Shadowfast, Titan, or Grundhelm's Grudge.
Shadowfast.
I prefer strips about Warhammer 40,000, Necromunda, or Gorka Morka. Never do a single Gorkamorka strip, as far as I remember.
But remember, this had Gorkamorka only launched at was it the start of '98 or the tail end of '97?
It's tail end of '97, but it's only on the shelf for 8 months.
Yeah.
It dies very quickly.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I'm just trying. I prefer strips about. I would say 40k would be.
Okay. I think the size of the comic is fine, not fine, because
It's fine.
fine or not fine. What choices are they?
Sweet, sweet, too sweet, no bad, or whatever.
I think the size of the comic is meh or I'd like a Warhammer comic every month, 2 weeks, or week.
I would have said I'd have done it weekly.
Mm-hmm. To be honest with you, though, for the purposes of this show, I'm glad it's monthly.
Yes. Well, to be fair, if it was weekly, it would only last a year and a half based on issue count. So, or slightly more than a year and a half.
Very, very true. I like stories that are linked, one-off, or both.
Both.
I would also like T-shirts and other cool stuff, competitions, readers' letters, or posters.
Or other.
Or other.
I would like competitions, and other. I would like occasionally some colour stories.
I would like to have a free frisbee with a chaos sign on the front. I'm going to buy every issue. Yes, no, maybe.
Or it's depending on how reliable my news agent is. It should have been the fourth option.
I also want to tell you that.
Get rid of those two hosts. They suck balls. It's basically the other living equivalent of Kill Jester from Falcon.
Yes, absolutely yes.
Seriously, pal, get rid of she rotten like.
But if you kill Jester, you won't be able to complete the game. I don't care.
I don't care. Kill Jester. Look, it's my money. Kill Jester.
Oh, thank you for that. I've forgotten about that. I haven't watched that in a good couple of years.
Yeah. Oh, Falcon Hoof lives long in the memory.
Falcon Hoop's an absolute genius. That and what's that one? Where he gets on a bus and goes to another town. Oh, I can't remember now. I'll have to find that one and rewatch it. But yeah, there's an entire Limmy sketch where he just gets on a bus, goes to another town, and gets really paranoid about it, buys some fags and leaves.
Yeah. Most that don't know, just YouTube Falcon Hoof Adventure Time.
Yep.
Or Adventure Call, sorry, even I should say. And I enjoy.
It's a masterpiece of hilarity.
Yeah. Yeah. So your survey should have had a competition to win something.
Yes, totally agree.
You would have got engagement.
I wonder if they just got I want to also tell you that they got some absolutely horrific responses to that, and that's why it never went anywhere.
Well, the reason for all of these is all of this will also be used. It's like, we now have a marketing database.
Yes, of course.
This is what all of these were used for. So see, kids, when you you need to write in to tell them that not to kill your favorite character or whatever. No, it's write in so we got your details so we can mark it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's at the time it was hidden. These days, not so much.
Yeah. So, and then the back cover is your preview of issue 1's cover, and again, $2.95 for the price, which is the same price as the essentials, if memory serves me.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So again, from a value for money proposition, it was on a bit of a hiding to nothing right from the get go.
I seem to remember thinking it was expensive.
Compared to, like I say, you get the 70, 22, so like 76 pages for the the Panini Essential editions.
Yes, yeah.
2000 at the time was the same page count weekly and still lower price at this point.
Mm-hmm. I seem to remember as well that the essentials. Yeah. I seem to remember that at this time though, the essentials usually had like a Marvel Masterpiece cards on the front and stuff as well.
Yeah, it's like you had from a price proposition, it was an uphill battle, but I'd also say it's a lovely drawing for that cover.
Yes.
Beautiful art, but it's not really a lively cover either.
No, it's quite static. I think it would make a really good bit of art in a book, like in a as a front cover. It doesn't grab you. It doesn't. It's just a little too muted. Needed to pop more.
Yeah. It's part of it. Does it feels like it's assuming that it's writing to an audience that already knows what it's going to get, which for
Yeah,
the first issue, no, you want to be appealing to someone else because it's just all you've got is a guy in armor with a big flag, looking impressive, with a lot of dead orc skulls around him,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's just telling inside this comic, Blood Quest, the search for the sword, Darkblade possessed by chaos, Cal Jericho, Underhive bounty hunter, Predator and Prey, death comes to Caladaniel. We still don't know enough, still on formal terms. But what what's Blood Quest? What's that tying to cover? What's there's just I'm as an old fart, it's always that cover should get me to instantly want to pick it up.
Yeah,
Now I want to
agreed.
pick it up because I like Colin McNeil's artwork and I'm familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not familiar with that and I'm looking at that on the shelf, it's like, and then I've got a more exciting cover next to it with, like, say, Wolverine having a fight with Marrow, for example, on the cover or whatever.
Yeah.
Probably around about that time. What am I going to go for? The fight cover.
Aye.
Or something that pops. It doesn't leap off the.
Well,
It's the title. Thing is, that should be your title page for Blood Quest Part 1. There you go, Blood Quest
yeah.
Part 1. Credits on there. That's it. That's not your front cover for it. That should be them fighting orcs.
Yeah, considering the cover, and we didn't really get into the cover of this one, but the cover for the preview here is such a vibrant colour that it grabs your attention. It's got colour, it's got movement, it's interesting, and it wants to draw you in. It's just the right side of cartoony in order to get your interest. The Blood Quest, and we'll get into this a bit more sort of next issue, but it is a very static, very flat. Yeah, it's like looking at a statue.
Yeah, like I say, the quality of the art is not in question here.
No.
But
it's the choice of it as a cover.
It's what the cover should be doing, which is telling me I need to pick this book up. I've never picked this up. I'm not aware of it. Oh, this is issue 1. Now, I'll always be more disposed to issue 1 anyway, because it's like, oh, it's a new issue 1 in the UK. I'll maybe pick it up. I'll give it a go anyway. But you can't rely on people being like that. You want to go, oh, that looks like something I need to read.
Yeah. I'll put it this way. Around about maybe a year earlier or so, the Marvel Essentials, I think it was the X-Men Essentials, they republished Avengers X-Men. Right? The cover to that drew me in. It's Exodus being all like, "Wah!" And it drew me in. And I knew what I was going in for. I already knew that X-Men Avengers crossover. And I still bought it because the cover was that good.
Yeah.
You
need to say it needs to work to get me to pick it up, and that doesn't do it.
No, it really doesn't. So, with all that being said, then we will start drawing things to a close. Andy, where can people find you if they so wish to?
Well, currently, social media wise, I can be found on Blue Sky. I do not use the site that used to be my biggest online home for obvious reasons. So you can find me at adtcomics.bsky.social. For those that don't know, I'm also one of the mad fools that organises TF Nation, Europe's largest and most inclusive and friendly Transformers convention. I also think we're the most inclusive and friendly convention in the world, but not the largest yet. We're working on that, but it's time. We'll be in Reading on the 23rd of November, or Doctor Who Day for those of you of a persuasion, for a one-day event. And we have our regular 3-day extravaganza August every year.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll find me harping on about that. I do talk occasionally about 40k. I have been very slack in painting up all my new acquisitions because I did start and then realised I made an absolute dog's breakfast of them, so stripped them down and I've reprimed them, but just haven't got around to painting them all up yet.
Yes.
But that is on the pad over the next several months, because I quite fancy getting a serviceable painted army so I can start properly playing again. Will I use current 10th edition rules? I'm not convinced. I don't particularly like much of them.
Ninth was a perfectly serviceable game.
I think you'll find that second edition, however, was still the best.
The second edition is the greatest game ever made. It is also single-handedly one of the worst games ever made.
Yes.
It's a wonderful, wonderful contradiction in terms, but
Oh yes.
I will play second ed with anyone at any given time at a drop of a hat.
Yes.
It makes me happy.
No, that's generally where you can find me. Unless you happen to live near me, in which case you can come to the house. But I'm not telling you where I live for obvious reasons.
Because there's wrong'uns out there. Wrong'uns. I mean, obviously, we are recording this ahead of schedule in order to get a backlog. So as things kind of roll along, you'll hear a lot more of TFN, and I think we'll try and work that out to make sure that we're advertising TFN.
Oh, I shall harp on about it. But basically, if you even have a remote interest in any part of Transformers, I'm biased. It's a great weekend for the thing, and we have one-day events. One in this November, we're trying in Reading for the first time. We've had a couple of one-dayers in Manchester. Will there be one in Manchester in 2025? Can't officially say anything, but the two previous ones were successes, so draw your own conclusions, children.
I'm hoping that next year I'm going to be able to make a reappearance with a small lad in tow, because he'll be 6 by then, so that'll be a bit more.
He'll be at the age that he will cost you a lot of money.
He'll be at the age where he has to start doing jobs to get pocket money in order to get money to spend for himself.
Those chimneys don't sweep themselves.
Daddy, not any chimneys left. Get up those chimneys. They're all bricked up. Get a sledgehammer.
Yep.
As for myself, you should all know this by now, you can find the Fluff and Hammer at thefluffandhammer.com. You can find us on Blue Sky under the Fluff and Hammer. You can find us on Threads under the Fluff and Hammer. You can find us on Discord using the link below. You can find us on Facebook. Just search for the Fluff and Hammer. If, as this goes along, you fancy sending us a email, some readers' letters, then you can do so to thefluffandhammer@gmail.com. Just put a little readers' letters thing in the title bar, and we will read it out on the show, because at the end of the day, we're doing this for us, but we're also wanting to know how you feel about it. It's gonna be good. It's gonna get fun. So with all that being said, we will get out of here. Thank you very much for listening, if indeed you still are, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.